clear of the closing doors, please.
All right, here we go. We are not live on Subway Sports Talk. My name is Peter Kennedy, and I am your host. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in to SST on Apple Podcasts app, Spotify, and on YouTube. Joining me today, the designated hitters. Wow, what a beautiful sight right here in January, nonetheless, which means there's been some action in New York baseball. The designated hitters are here, of course, starting with our leadoff designated hitter, Alec Argento. What's up, brother?
What's up?
And, of course, the other designated hitter, second. I don't know. There you go. Andrew Calagna. What's up, brother? How you doing?
Hey, I'm ready to talk about the big Mets transaction of the day, my friend. Eduardo Nunez is coaching the single A Mets affiliate. How about that?
That's crazy, actually. That's wild. I thought you were going to go with Tobias Myers as a little aside there and not talk about Peralta, but that's pretty wild.
They also designated Dick Lovelady for assignment today. So R.I.P. Dick Lovelady.
That sucks, Dick. For Dick Lovelady, that really does.
Yeah.
I hate to see that. He had at least a good run of memes last year for a hot second, but the Mets are on to hopefully greener pastures as their hope to just wash away the 2025 brutal season that was. Just wash it behind and move past it. That's their goal, and they've brought in a ton of new players to try to make that a reality. We will discuss all of that, and of course, the Yankees, not quite as active, but getting busy a little bit in their own right throughout this offseason so far. I think Yankee fans, a little bit of stick poking the horse, do something, come on. But there's still some reason to believe in the Bronx as well. But we also have a lot of stuff going on here, guys. Subway Sports Talk right here in the New York area. The New York Giants have a new football coach. The New York Jets are dumb. And the New York Knicks are not on track, but hopefully possibly getting back on track after a nice win against the Brooklyn Nets. And we'll have to discuss all that. So I believe we should start quickly with John Harbaugh and the New York Giants, as we are a panel here of 3 Giants fans. So who else to hear from than the biased Giants fans themselves, which our bias is weird, by the way. We don't actually like our team very much, usually. That's kind of how we roll over the last 10 years. So the bias is interesting. We'll also touch quickly on the AFC and NFC Championship very quickly. But Alec, start off with you. John Harbaugh, the coach of the Giants, and you feel what?
I feel a sense of relief. I feel a foundation is building. I feel like we have a serious team for the first time in absolutely forever. Even when we were making the playoffs, when we had Ben McAdoo or whatever the case is, we have not been a serious team forever. And I feel validated in my belief that we have the foundational pieces in a quarterback that we can believe in, a wide receiver, a running back, a line that we can believe in, all that kind of stuff. Because if Harbaugh's saying that and he's coming here to do that at this time in his life, at this point in his career, then it's not just me, an idiot fan, saying that, right? Like, this isn't me saying this is going to be our year, I believe it, and then getting the same 0-6 start or 2-6 start that we get every year. This is a belief from someone who knows a lot more about football than I do, and I'm just stoked, dude.
Yeah, I'm just actually relieved that they actually hired a experienced, well-versed head coach instead of like the hot upcoming coordinator, what I feel like they've done like the last 5 head coaches since, it very much reminds me of Tom Coughlin, like veteran coach knows his stuff, absolutely respected by players, front office, everyone in the organization. So it's nice to have that again and have, confidence in your leadership of your football team going forward. Whether or not that means they're an instant playoff team, I don't know. The obviously moves still need to be made, improvements still need to be made, but it's a very good foundation on top of the pieces that are already, in place.
Yeah, what I thought was interesting about the hire was that a lot of people seem to believe the Giants were a good landing spot for one of these coaches that were sought after, right? Like, oh, they have a quarterback we like. They got a running back and a receiver we like. They got a left tackle. They got a really strong defensive line. But the GM sucks. And I was kind of like, wait, hold on. How does that work? How do you have all this good stuff on the roster, but the GM sucks? It doesn't make any sense to me. But I think people are really tied up on the Saquon thing, which is old news. And Joe Shane, frankly, I believe did the right thing. Obviously, the Hard Knocks offseason didn't, make Joe Shane look super flattering. I I know Dable was more the guy who wanted Jackson Dart, not Joe Shane. So sure, you can pick and choose, but the fact of the matter is the talent is at least somewhat there for the New York Giants, for John Harbaugh to have a foundation. That's very important. And then on the other side of it, did you guys have any feeling about the age of John Harbaugh? Because he looks pretty young. He looks pretty spry, if you ask me, but he's a lean 62. And there's never been a coach who has won a Super Bowl with another team, gone to another team, and won another Super Bowl. So that is an interesting factor, as I made fun of my friends throwing Bill Belichick's name out there. He's only 10 years younger, but that feels like a big 10 years, right? Like, that feels big.
Yeah, how what's his age? How old is he?
62.
62.
60. Listen, again, and when someone said that he was been the coach of the Ravens for 18 years, I was like, how is that? Is that true? Is that actually? Yeah, it's crazy, absolutely insane that someone with like that long of a tenure, decides not to ride off into the sunset, because that's a very valid thing to do after you've been in an organization that long, and again, you're in your 60s. It's like, what else do you have left to prove? So it's very encouraging that he wants to take on a new challenge right away, not take like a year off and be like an analyst at ESPN to make a bunch of money. Like, he just wants to jump right back into coaching, and you can see like he's not here to be a part of a long rebuild. Like, he's looking to contend right away. So
Right.
all very encouraging, all good signs. That I think any Giants fan can rest their head at night and feel pretty good about.
Yeah, if anything, the fact that he's 62 should make you feel more confident, and that he's not taking on something that he's going to be there for, a long time to rebuild everything. He's coming in to hopefully win pretty immediately. Also, 62, Brian Dable's 50 years old. That's not that much difference. And the amount of experience that you get in that age gap to come in and completely reorganize the organization, right? He's not coming in and just like, okay, I'm going to get a new OC and a DC or something like that. He completely changed the reporting structure that we have here within the organization. He's cleaning house. He's listening to people. He's modernizing the equipment. Like, you had Dave Gettleman not too long ago talk about computer guys and everything like that. Harbaugh wants to come in and reinvest in analytics in a way that we desperately need in the organization. It's coming from someone who's a Yankee fan too, and is miserable about all that stuff. But you're modernizing by bringing his experience. Yeah. So I'm stoked about it, man. It's just there's nothing bad about it. It's much needed, complete washing of power wash of everything that this organization has been for the past 15 years. And I don't know. I really do believe that the playoffs are on the table for next year.
Right. And I mean, you've seen these teams now make the jump after 1 year with a new coach. And just this year, specifically, the Patriots, the Jaguars, the Panthers didn't have a brand new coach, but a year 2 coach with a young roster that actually won their division somehow. Like, you're seeing McDonald in Seattle really just rewrite the entire Seahawks, arc for the next couple of years. They're on paper one of the best teams of a generation, even though no one talks about them like that at this point in time. But the coach makes such a massive difference. And I believe that, step one to the Giants' success is competency. And if there's a coach in the last 15 to 20 years who has exuded confidence, or competence, John Harbaugh's in the top 5 of that list, right? It's the Tomlin, it's his brother Jim, it's Andy Reid. It's before he's 72, Pete Carroll, that's a different thing, right? 10 more years is a different story here. But those were the guys who have consistently just put out good products. And I think that's step one for the Giants. But that's all we got for the Giants right now, because we got to keep this thing moving today. I want to ask you guys a question quickly before we get to the New York Knicks. AFC Championship, Patriots, Broncos, NFC Championship, Seahawks, Rams. Is there a team, without a dog in the fight for any of us specifically here, is there a team that jumps to you as the most likable, as a team that you kind of want to kind of put your arm around now for the next few weeks here and say, I want to see this team get over the hump? Because right now I'm between a rock and a hard place kind of with this AFC NFC Championship.
I was rooting for San Francisco, to be honest with you. Christian McCaffrey, Purdy, Jennings, those are all, like fun guys to root for. Plus, they won me my fantasy football championship. So I was all real big on those guys.
Hurt.
No. Outside of the guys left, I mean, I'm rooting for anyone to beat New England. So I mean, that's my rooting interest. I don't want to see. I'm fucking sick of the Patriots. Like I don't need to keep doing this with them. So anybody that can beat the Patriots, whether it's in the AFC Championship or the Super Bowl, those are my likable teams going forward.
Yeah, it ain't going to be the Patriots. I'm not rooting for them. I don't think anybody in America really is outside of like a 3-state area. It's hard, right? I don't really feel like this is a very entertaining bunch that you have here. I'm going to pull for the Seahawks. I love an underdog story. I love validating that Sam Darnold actually is good and it wasn't just kind of some, flash in the pan with the Vikings and everything like that. But I mean, the AFC game, that's the least rootable game of all time. There's a backup quarterback going against the Patriots. You know how that one's going to turn out unless there's a Nick Foles 2.0. It's not fun news right now. So let's go Seahawks, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on the Seahawks, Alec. I think that validation for Darnold would be really cool to see, and the defense and McDonald over there kind of really running the show. I wouldn't hate watching Stafford win a second ring. I think that would be pretty cool. I've always liked Stafford, even back to Detroit. But I'm in a really weird spot here with the AFC Championship because I've been kind of shit talking the Patriots on TikTok for months now, and their fans are all up in my comments, like hundreds of Patriot fans over the past few months of like, just like, oh, you're just a hater from blah, 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 blah. I'm like, listen, you could tell me that you played some good teams, but you really didn't. And like, you guys are good. The Patriots are a good team. I'm not trying to say that they're bad. I think they're a year ahead of schedule, and this is a unique opportunity to win the damn thing a year early for them. I don't like it. I hate it. I don't respect it yet because they have had one of the easiest passes to Super Bowl in our lifetime. That's just the facts, okay? Patriot fans, so freaking get over yourself. However, I'm kind of rooting for them in the AFC Championship. I do not want to see Jarrett Stidham in the Super Bowl. I'm sorry. No offense to Jarrett Stidham and his family. And no offense to the Denver Broncos. Actually, much offense to the Denver Broncos. I don't enjoy watching them, generally speaking, anyway. I shouldn't say that. I enjoy watching their games. I don't really root for them at the moment. For whatever reason, I haven't been drawn to them. Jarrett Stidham making the Super Bowl versus Drake May and the Patriots making the Super Bowl does do something to an intrigue perspective that I don't want to see. So I do want the Patriots to make it, and I want them to lose to the Seahawks or the Rams. Preferably, I'd say the Seahawks, but no one wants to see the Patriots win. They're the evil empire of football. And if this was a baseball conversation and you two weren't Yankee fans and the Yankees were in the same boat, everyone outside of the Yankee fandom would say anyone to beat the Yankees, right? The Patriots are the Yankees of our generation for the NFL. So it's a pretty simple fact. So let's go Seahawks, I guess. But Greedy Pete, which they call me sometimes, does want to see the Pats in the Super Bowl because I do not want to see Jarrett Stidham. Is that a fair assessment?
I mean, I'd say so, but except for the Yankees, I'd say the Dodgers, not the Yankees, because
Sure. Dodgers,
listen,
Yankees, kind of same thing.
I was 21 when the Yankees last won the World Series. I'm approaching 40, my friends. The Yankees aren't a relevant, beatable franchise for an entire generation of people. You want to say the Los Angeles Dodgers would be my guess, but not the Yankees. I still think
it's both. Let's be real.
I understand.
But you're right, but you're wrong.
There's nothing worse in sports than being boring, right? You never want to be boring. You don't want to be boring good. You don't want to be boring bad. And there's nothing that would be more boring than the Broncos like going to the Super Bowl. So at the very least with the Patriots, they make you feel something. You're either rooting for them or you're rooting against them. I mean, you need that in sports. Otherwise, it's going to be painful to watch, and I'm going to be more interested in the commercials than I am in the game, right? Like you don't want to have
the doomsday trailer that's going to drop in the Super Bowl.
Hell yeah. So, I mean, I agree with you. I understand the sentiment. I don't think I could ever say the words out loud that I would be rooting for the Patriots in any game, but I totally hear you is what I would say on that one. I'd much rather that for an entertaining Super Bowl.
And from a Drake May perspective, like he is on the trajectory to be one of them ones, right? He's really trajecting to be a dude in this league. He hasn't played great in the playoffs so far. He really hasn't. They've had pretty easy opposition so far. CJ Stroud couldn't throw the ball to his team. Justin Herbert was running for his life, scared for his life. And yeah, the defenses for Houston and the Chargers were good. Drake May hasn't done great yet. And it's another good defense that he's going to play right now. So in the story of it all, like let's see if Drake May can add a little intrigue. Maybe if he does kind of win something without doing too well, it creates some intrigue moving forward about, well, who he's going to be in the playoffs. I don't know. I'm interested more so in watching Drake May and the Patriots, even though I want them to lose at the end of the day. All right, moving on to the New York Knicks, because we're trying to rapid fire this stuff before we get to the big hitting conversation of New York Mets and New York Yankees baseball. The Knicks, man, roller coaster ride of a season so far. To give a quick little run of show on this season, Alec was on with me. I think it might have been right at the beginning of the season, talking about the Knicks. Pretty excited, understood the expectation, understood this Knicks team was expected to be a top dog in the Eastern Conference. And to start the year, a fumble here and there, whatever, nothing too crazy. Alec was a little more nervous than me. I was saying, hey, hold on, relax. We're going to be good. This is going to be fine, da-da-da. Then they played some of the best basketball we've watched since Tibbs took over, and now obviously with Mike Brown. And we're like, wow, this team is really good. They are who we thought they were, and they're a contender. And then after the NBA Cup title, say what you want about that. I don't believe that's going to be a long-term correlation, but I do maybe believe in the short-term correlation of them kind of, putting out a little too much effort there for a hot second and kind of wearing off some of the juice. But they've been bad for about 15 to 20 games. They've been not a good basketball team. So Alec's early season worries are back, and Pete's early season's, hey, relax, are gone, because Pete is also now a little bit nervous and hairy about this situation as well. So Alec, I'll go to you first. Where are you at now? Are you on a panic button? Have you pressed it? Do you think there needs to be big change, or do you think there's going to be a righting of the ship?
I mean, I've been panicking all season. I said this to you early on. Like, the cost of fan happiness goes up. This is it. Like, you're a contender. If you don't make it to the finals, this is a failure of a season. There's no, and to do that, you need to be a legit contender through the regular season. You can't be a 4th seed. You can't be a 3 seed. You got to be at least a 2 seed throughout the season. I don't know if they're going to do that at the end of the year. This team scares the crap out of me because they're not serious. It's all mental. You can see it out there. Brown is a player's coach. I don't think in this town, I've never believed in this town that you can go with a player's coach. You need a hard-nosed guy. How many times have we seen a Tom Thibodeau get fired for a Mike Brown, right? Like, there's always the Tom Coughlin firings for who did they hire after? Ben McAdoo, was that the next guy right after Tom Coughlin? Like, that stuff happens. The Joe Girardi to the Aaron Boone. Yeah, like, this stuff happens all the time. It never works out. And if you're doing this to try to appease personalities, like, unless you have a LeBron James and to do that, it's just not going to work out well for you. So this worries me. I never thought, I wasn't necessarily of the camp that Tom Thibodeau shouldn't have been fired. I didn't think he should have been, but the problem isn't that he was fired. It's that we hired Mike Brown. It's an uninspired hiring, right? And to see what you're seeing now makes sense. He could, this is like I actually have a Kings fan friend in my life, and I kind of talked through Mike Brown with him, and he said this is what happened there. Like, he was unserious. There's a lot of excuses for why this isn't happening. The players get blamed, and I see that happening. But you could see this from day one with Karl Anthony Towns. He never bought into that system. And I don't think he can. I think he's got the yips now. He doesn't know what he's doing out there. He doesn't know what his role is. And you're seeing, once one person gets it in their head like that, other people get it in their head like that. Where the hell has OG Anunoby been? Mikal Bridges was an All-NBA player in the first month of the season. Now he's back to being nowhere, right? So you've lost you're now in no man's land, where you have no draft capital to trade. You don't have assets to get rid of. The best asset you have is Gershon Yabusele, who, the corpse of Gershon Yabusele, and like maybe a pick swap here and there. So I'm scared to death for this team. That being said, this is the NBA. And if you get to the playoffs, you have a chance, especially when talent tends to win out. And then what I would say is, you just had one of the biggest blowouts in NBA history yesterday. And if that doesn't right you the ship, then nothing can, in my opinion. Yeah, of course, but like, you need to win like that. You need a game like that to right the ship.
Yeah, and kind of go back to your point on Tibbs before. Like, I even said when they fired Tibbs, I was like, they better have a plan in place. I was like, if you're going to make such a big decision to fire Tibbs, you need to have someone in mind that's going to replace him. And they had nobody in mind. They were like, we're just going to feel it out. And that's how you end up with Mike Brown. And that's how you end up in this situation when you made such a reactionary decision to get rid of Tibbs when, it looks like all the players bought into the system, and again, I think firing him was the correct move, and I don't think they were going to win a championship with Tibbs, but you needed to have a plan in place when you did it, and they just didn't. And now you're stuck with Mike Brown, at least for the year. I don't think they'll fire a coach after 1 year. Maybe they do if they highly disappoint in the playoffs, but they're stuck with each other whether fans like it or not.
The thing I didn't love about Mike Brown, because he's not the guy who I was choosing or hoping for to be hired for this job, is that this guy's been around and been liked for a long time, and he's a really likable personality. That doesn't mean he's a great coach. Like, he's been a good coach before. He's been with some really good teams before. It's like when he was coaching LeBron James way back when Drew was turning 21, 40 years ago, 20 years ago. Like, he had LeBron James. Okay. So there we go. But then he was an assistant coach for a long time. He was assistant coach with the Warriors. That obviously kind of boosted him up a little bit. He was the interim head coach when Steve Kerr was dealing with stuff, and they won playoff series with him as the head coach. And like, that was really cool. The Light the Beam Kings were really legitimately fun and good for a little bit there. This was not the guy who was going to come in and be everything that the Knicks fans wanted. He never was going to be. Did I talk myself into Mike Brown? Absolutely. Because I thought, number one, he was very different from Tom Thibodeau. That is evidently true. That different was very good for a stretch here. I'm not writing off the possibility that this Knicks team, even with the major slump over the last 15 games, still being top 8 in net rating, even again, after going, they lost 9 out of 11 at one point in the past few weeks. Like, it was legitimately bad. Like, they can get back on track and they can win with this roster. But the shortcomings of who he is or who he could be are showing themselves. So this is all par for the course. Like, I liked the hire after I thought about it and etc. I never loved it. And who the right hire was, I still don't believe is exactly evident, honestly. Like, I don't think you can look back and say, oh, well, they should have gotten Taylor Jenkins. Like, they should have gotten this guy. Like, it was not that simple. The guy who I wanted was James Borrego. He stayed in New Orleans because he probably knew he was going to get the interim spot, and he did, and they suck. Is it his fault? I don't think so. That roster's a shit show, and they can't stay healthy. So, like, it's a weird thing. What worries me most, what Alec was alluding to there, is Mikal Bridges specifically, because I think Cat, from day one of the season, didn't want to do the offensive things that this offense was doing. And then he realized, oh, it's kind of working, but he's falling out of it. Mikal Bridges was playing the best basketball of his career under this system for weeks at a time. And now he is lost again. And there's a weird report that Cat and Mikal are not loved by this coaching staff because of those systematic things that they're not doing. So that's really strange to me. And that's what triggers the idea that a move can be on the horizon. Where if you asked me 3 weeks ago, is this team making a major move? I would have said absolutely not. Now I can see them making a pretty big mix-up move, though I still probably wouldn't bet on it. I would just not be shocked by it.
I think the amount of shots that people got early on in the season were good looks by everyone. Everyone had wide open threes. The system made sense. It's all mental. Clearly, it's all mental as it goes on. And that's what you need. Like, the second they hit adversity on this team, it just completely collapsed. They had a pretty cupcake schedule for the most part. They won a couple nice games on the road, but they started off losing every game on the road. Weren't they like 0-6
Right.
to start the year? They're not a mentally strong team there. I think you have to get rid of Cat. I never liked the trade in the first place. This is not like a breaking hot take or anything like that. How long have Cat and Brunson been playing together for them to still not have a two-man game? They don't work with each other. They just cannot work with each other. There's no defense that goes on there. And then as soon as these hard times hit, the issues become so loud. They get reported in the media. Tibbs had a closed clubhouse. Every now and then you'd hear an Obi Toppin thing that was recorded silently on someone's phone, but like this stuff did not leak. Everything is leaking all the time in that locker room. This is a team that is clearly infighting. All the little things like, it's okay to have Rick Brunson to be an assistant coach when you're winning and everything is going. I'm sure that people are pissed off about things like that, and the Mikal Bridges and the Josh Harts and everything like that in there. This team needs to get overhauled in some way, shape, or form, and it's got to be Cat, especially if there's still a Giannis offer to be made.
Yeah, if Giannis is on the table, that has to be a consideration. I would say this, though. Even with the major slump, the Knicks have been a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference for the entirety of this season. Easily. They're still, you're not scared of the Raptors. You're not scared of the Sixers or the Cavs or the Magic or the Heat or the Bulls. The Pistons and the Celtics are playing really good ball. The Knicks are not playing good ball currently, but they're still in that same exact ilk. There's plenty of reason to believe they can right the ship. The one thing I just truly don't understand with this team, Drew, is the way that they give up runs. I mean, it is like you went to the buffet late night and went to town type of runs. Like they will be down 15 in the matter of minutes. And then all of a sudden they're fighting back and clawing back and making it an interesting game. But the way that they're defensively just giving up waterfall level runs is something that like even with watching bad Knicks teams, I'm just not used to seeing. It's very, very strange. Is there a cross sport like comparison you can make to this? Is this something like you've seen before, Drew, with a team that you watch closely where you're like, I know they're good, but they do these things for stretches that I just can't even fathom?
Oh, that's the Yankees all the time, especially the Yankees with their defensive miscues and
Right.
Just looking like they've never played baseball in their life. And that's the Knicks it looks like they've never played defense ever, even though under Tibbs, one of the best defensive teams in the league. So it's like the talent and the wherewithal is there, and just something's just not clicking, which doesn't make any sense to me because it's basically the same team that was there last year. So
and last year, real quick, last year just one kind of, I guess it's a little anti-Tibbs. I don't mean it to be, but like they weren't very good statistically defensively last year. So to Alec's point, that might be a major Cat issue rather than a Tibbs to Mike Brown issue, because their defensive stats were very mediocre last year, which is they're pretty mediocre so far in the aggregate this year too. But yeah, your point stands.
But they weren't giving up,
runs. Yeah, for sure.
They weren't having these like completely mental lapses on defense as they were. Like again, the talent's there to be an average to slightly below average, team, but they like those stretches are surprising, and it's unacceptable, like, frankly.
Yeah, the talent is there to be like a top 8 defensive team, frankly. Probably not a top 5, probably not a top 3, but top 8, top 10 for sure. And they're just not playing defense in that way at all. I look forward to, hopefully they have the Philadelphia Sixers on Saturday, which will be a huge win. They're playing decent ball. Like Embiid is playing well. Paul George is actually playing basketball right now. Like the Sixers are not an easy win. Even though I'm not like scared of them long-term for the season. Maxi's been playing incredible basketball. So I'm excited for that game on Saturday to see the Sixers and see if they can get on track out.
Sorry for my connection being crappy before, but I have a question for you, Pete. Obviously, there's the rumor mill starting now for trades. Would you make a swap for, obviously, I don't know how the math would work out, but I think it could work out because they're both on max deals, Paolo for Cat? I think that's like an interesting dynamic that kind of fixes a little bit, changes scenery for both of them. I think there's not a big market for Cat out there right now. You're probably going to get a similar value to what a Trae Young would offer you, which was nothing. And it's either like a JJJ or a Paolo or something like that, where there's like a reclamation project or someone with obvious flaws to carry things.
I've always really liked Paolo. I don't think he solves the Knicks issues. I mean, it makes more sense to play him next to Mitch, but then how much more Huck Purdy are you relying upon? If Paolo's in the rotation, how does that look next to OG? Paolo's really good, like on ball offensive player. And I'm curious to see if he would fit in this system with Brunson being so dominant, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't love that fit, even though I still do have a lot of faith in Paolo. Jaren Jackson Jr., on the other hand, is a great defensive player and a great scorer, but he's a shit rebounder. So again, you're
Right.
relying on a lot of Mitch Robinson, again, who I'm glad you kind of asked this question and forced me to bring up Mitch Robinson. When I'm watching the Knicks, I swear to God, over the last 2 weeks, I multiple times said, I think Mitch is our best player.
Yeah.
Like, the impact that Mitch Robinson has on the game when he's on the floor is you feel it every possession that he can get an offensive rebound. He can make a play. He can put in a lob. He isn't as dopey with the ball in his hands as he maybe once was. And like, he's so impactful for them, but is it a problem that I'm watching the Knicks with Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns, OG, Josh Hart, and Mikal Bridges, and I'm sitting here on my couch going, damn, is Mitch our best player right now? Like, that's a weird thing to be in.
Well, I don't conflate best player for hustle, because I mean that's what we haven't had for a while. Is we haven't had
That's a good
hustle,
point.
especially
Obviously
when
not our best. You're right.
No, but I think it's easy to fall into that trap. Like I don't think that's an unfair thing for you to think, because when hustle outclasses talent, it just does, especially in the NBA. I mean, how many times have you seen a peppy young upstart team beat a team that's won 20 games in a row or something like that? You got to want it more, and if you don't have that, it's going to make you look worse. So I mean, that's another thing I'm hopeful for, is like you haven't had Josh Hart for a while, right? And I think that Josh Hart and Mitch tend to get they're rallying players, right? Like when they're doing those things, it gets other people going. When you're doing the little things, when you're diving for balls, making hard fouls and stuff like that, and ripping those rebounds out the air. And if it's all on Mitch, then it's going to look highlighted, but it's not going to be contagious if it's one person doing that. You need a couple other people. So I'm hopeful that with a couple easy wins or two can get us out of this. I think that's the only way that you can, is you need to have people that give a shit. I don't know if you saw that post game interview with Josh Hart the other day about the players only meeting, but it's very clear that there's a lot of animosity there. I think they know where it needs to be directed, and I think that there's enough experience there to direct it appropriately, right? And if it's not going to be Mike Brown, I trust a Josh Hart in the locker room to do that kind of stuff. So anyway, I know your point was about Mitch, but I think that's because there's just been a lack of hustle, and I think that hopefully we can get that back, because when you're hustling and running to the ball, the team looks a lot better than it's been.
They need a metaphorical thumb up their butt to get their things going.
How about a real one?
Yeah.
I like how you raised your hand for that.
Can you look up the stat of what their record is post thumb up the butt? I mean, it's got to be bad. Kind of change the whole dynamic of the locker room. So I mean, you got to take that into account.
That's a great point. Honestly, people forget about that. And then obviously, I think they won like a big game right after that, and Alan Hahn made that. Alan Hahn, yeah, Christmas. Wow. Christmas Day was awesome. What a win for the Knicks that day. It feels awesome. Like they've been off a cliff since Christmas Day. But I think Alan Hahn made that comment to Brunson about the thumbs up, and since then they're bad news bears.
Wait, is the thumb pick the new boat pick? Is that what happened?
The thumb prick, I think they're calling it.
Woof.
How you doing? Yeah. So really quick, actually, I just want to go through the Knicks' upcoming games, because I do think, Alec, their schedule wasn't incredibly difficult early, but it also, like, when you're the New York Knicks, where they are right now, like, they should be beating most teams. So when you're losing to Atlanta, Philly, that's tough. You lose to Detroit, like, okay, you lost to Detroit. They're a really good team. You lose to Phoenix. They're playing good, but like, that kind of sucks. You lose to the Kings. God damn it. Warriors. God damn it. Like, all that stuff.
Also, like, before we started losing, we barely beat the Pacers. Do you like, and the Pelicans? We lose.
The Pacers have been weird all year.
Yeah.
No, they beat the Pelicans. Yeah. Pacers have been annoying all year to everybody. They're losing every game, but they're like also just playing weirdly tight because they're just got a good infrastructure. But upcoming for the Knicks, they have the Sixers Saturday, like I mentioned, Kings, Toronto, Portland, Lakers, Washington, and Denver. Denver, that could be a Jokic return spot, but probably not. And then they have Detroit and Boston. So really leading up to Denver, Detroit, Boston, they have a lot of winnable games over the next 5 or 6. And like, you want to see them kind of right the ship and just like win 5 in a row, win 5 out of 6. It feels like Toronto's hanging around towards the top of the standings in the East. Like, go to Toronto and beat their ass. Like, the Knicks need to put other teams in their place again and be like, hey, we are still a top dog here. Don't play with us. And you need that energy from the Knicks a little bit. All right, let's move on to baseball talk. We got about 30, 35 minutes into the pod right now, and it's perfect time to bring us home with some baseball talk in January. And some January baseball talk that is interesting because the teams here in New York are trying to do stuff to wash away the ugly 2025, some more ugly than others. Obviously, the Yankees still made the dance, didn't do anything that Yankee fans wanted once they're in that dance, but they were still there. And the Mets, with one of the all-time collapses, being in a postseason spot since like day 7 of the season until day 155 of the season or something like that. So really brutal 2025. Do we have to start with the Mets? I think we do, right? I think even 2 Yankee fans would agree that the Mets have to be the starting point here.
Yeah.
So a quick overhaul for the New York Mets this offseason with David Stearns at the helm and Steve Cohen still tweeting a little bit here and there. The new look Mets with Freddie Peralta, the most recent acquisition on the pitching staff. They send out Sproat. They send out Jet Williams. Bye-bye prospects. They also bring in Luis Robert Jr. They bring in Marcus Semien, Bo Bichette recently, Jorge Polanco, and they have really revamped this entire operation here. Devin Williams and Luke Weaver come in the bullpen as well.
McNeil to the A's.
McNeil is gone. Pete Alonso is gone. Brandon Nimmo is gone. And this team is completely different. Drew, in this case, is completely different for the New York Mets. Clearly better, clearly worse, or like the same, who the hell knows?
I think it really depends. What are you talking about in better overall? Maybe in terms of defensively, I don't think so.
I think they're worse defensively.
Oh, I think they're absolutely worse defensively. You're talking about Stearns was talking at the beginning of the offseason how they wanted to be big into run prevention, and now you're sticking a guy at third base who's never played third base before, and then you're sticking a guy at first base who's never played first base before. Sure, you're going to be fine up the middle. Luis Robert Jr., Lindor, and Semien, probably the top three defensive, probably one of the best up the middle in baseball defensively. So that's fine. But you're talking on the corners, very, very suspect. And, left field, I'm not sure what
Carson Bench
is, how good he is defensively. But Soto's not great in the outfield. So I think they might have downgraded defensively, even though Pete was kind of a butcher at first base, and his throws costed Senga multiple injuries in the
half a
season. His throws. So that was
I'm surprised though. I'm surprised. Sorry to cut you off. I'm surprised you would say that you think that their defense is worse. I mean, Bo Bichette being a solid shortstop defensively, playing third base feels like is something that could be realistic. And Simeon's like a stud up the middle. You mentioned the up the middle is really, really good. So I'm not going to argue with that. I mean, Polanco playing first is probably the one thing to me where I'm like, I don't know. Like, could he do that? Like, everyone kind of wants to throw someone at first base. I don't know if that's as easy as people think. But like you said, Pete wasn't great. I feel like they did kind of clearly upgrade defensively. Almost the one thing I could guarantee.
If you would have put Bo at second, I would have, if they didn't have Semien already, I just feel like there's so many pieces there that they're kind of doing what the Yankees did in 2024 with Soto and Judge, Judge playing center field. He could play it, but it wasn't, that's not the ideal way.
There's too much going on.
There's too many pieces in place that don't fit correctly. If you push them in, it'll work, but I'm not 100% convinced that Bo has, the big knock on Bo as a shortstop. He was one of the worst defensive shortstops in the league. He can hit fine, but his range isn't, his range wasn't great. His arm's not great. So that makes me, if they would put him at second, I'd feel a lot better about him on the Mets. But again, if you look at the press conference there, I think he's only going to be here for a year anyway. When they asked him, it was like, oh, you had the opt-out after the year. And he just pointed. He's like, talk to my agent about it, and like an agent answered the question. Like he didn't have anything to say about it. So again, I think they're on the same level offensively as they were last year, maybe even a tick better or two, depending on what Simeon does. But I think there's question marks defensively, and the Mets, they actually did the thing that they need to do and go out and get a front of the rotation pitcher. Did cost them a lot, and I'm not sure if Stearns is actually going to re-sign him, because that's not really his MO, is to give out long-term pitching contracts to guys that he's going to be 30. So I think this is very much a one-year rental for Peralta with, their eyes on Skubal and, next year. So I think that was a big price to pay, but Jet Williams didn't have anywhere to play anyway. So, they, again, too many infielders, and, you had a decent number of excess young pitchers that you could give away. So the price was high, but it was a definitely manageable price to get Peralta and filled in the biggest need that they have in the rotation.
Feels like we're going into this season the same way we go into every Mets season, which is there's just so many question marks. There's nothing that's shored up that exactly how it's going to play out, and it can go in a million different directions. I mean, there's a lot of relying on people to, play up to their baseball card. I mean, Marcus Simeon's 36 years old, 37 or something like that. He's had some down years recently. I mean, you don't know what you're going to get out of that. You don't know what you're going to get out of these rentals or people that have huge contracts and everything like that. And it can break one or a million different directions, and they could end up winning the World Series, or it could end up being a disaster class. And I think history would serve to say that it's probably going to be a disaster class.
Brutal. I do have to give you credit, Alec, because you were spot on with the Mets last year, really being front facing, saying like, hey, if the Mets don't make a World Series this year, it's an absolute failure. And we're like, oh, well, you actually might have said if they don't win, but you said don't make it. Either way, it doesn't matter. Like absolute failure. And I was kind of like, well, what do you mean? What if they did da da da? And like you were right. You were like, listen, this team is spending big. They have big names. They have talent. They have question marks. Their expectation is to win. Like, why would you be satisfied with anything else? And you ended up being pretty much spot on, like with the question marks and the outcomes of that season. Marcus Simeon, 35, by the way, not 37. A little bit of a nice difference there. But with a question I got today, right, from a friend texting me, shout out to Joe Faz. He goes, are the Mets better right now than they were last year? And I was like, well, you have to remember that they sucked last year. I feel like that's what a lot of people are forgetting, who are being a little bit down on the move so far. They were bad for half the year. They were really bad. They were a bad baseball team for half the season last year. When it mattered most, they were consistently shit. So this team that is out here right now, when you say, oh, well, Vientos might actually be due for a bounce back year. Beatty found something last year. Alvarez found something last year. Like, these are all things that you could point to if you wanted to be optimistic. The fact of the matter is, all these new players who, like Polanco had a great year last year. Simeon, not as much because he was a little banged up. Like, this is most importantly different. And now I'm sounding like the Knicks with Mike Brown versus Tom Thibodeau. It's important for the Mets to be different than they were last year. Because last year, let's remember, they sucked for half the year.
Yeah, you can't be upset when you break up the core of an 83 win team that disappointed completely. Like, I understand. I know how much you love Pete Alonso. And I like Pete Alonso too.
You're talking about me or the general you?
I'm talking you, Pete. I know how much you like Pete Alonso.
I was fine with him leaving.
I don't know. I feel like he should have been Met, and like if the alternative,
I agree.
Like,
I agree.
If the alternative is Polanco and then Vientos at first base versus if you would have had Pete Alonso with the other moves that they made, I'd feel a lot better about the team going forward, because again, you lost a big power threat, but you gained some of it back with some of the moves that they made. But again, Nimmo and McNeil and Alonso, Met fans, great memories of them. They all had their moments to shine, but like, again, this
a lot of bad memories.
What has this core won?
Yeah.
Together, like at a certain point, you have to say enough's enough. You had to shake the boat, and it's upsetting to Mets fans to lose like all those long-term players. But again, if after what happened last year, something had to give, and unfortunately, those guys, those were the key guys, and now this is Lindor's team. Now he's got to do him and Soto. It's their team now. So it's a new era for the Mets, I suppose.
Question for someone who is an outside looking in. If I were a Met fan, I'd be the most skeptical and the most scared about the bullpen transitions at the moment. What are your thoughts upon losing Edwin Diaz and replacing them with a Devin Williams? Pete, I'm asking you.
Diaz was the biggest disappointment of who they lost for me, and it wasn't close. Nimmo, I thought, could not even run in left field last year. I thought he looked horrible in left field last year, actually. He couldn't track a fly ball because his bottom half was giving out on him. Jeff McNeil should have been gone 2 years ago, if not last year.
Yeah.
And Pete Alonso, though I believed he should have been a lifelong Met, like him leaving was obvious because David Stearns made it very clear he was not paying him big bucks. David Stearns made that abundantly clear last offseason when he wouldn't offer him a big deal. Like, why were Mets fans shocked by this? I don't know. Diaz was the number one thing that crushed me as a Mets fan this offseason because he was lights out. He was the Mets' best player last year. He was off the charts, and really, he had one pretty rough year as a Met. Other than that, this guy has been, well, he also missed an entire season, but other than that, he's been incredible. And last year, when you got to Edwin Diaz, the Mets were winning baseball games consistently and always. And Devin Williams last year did not have remotely that success and obviously found something a little bit better as the year went on. But I feel okay about where the bullpen is right now. I think Luke Weaver and Devin Williams, just as the Yankees bullpen netted out statistically very well for years, like going to the Yankees bullpen to grab arms is not a bad idea. It crushes me that Diaz is not in that pen. If he was in that pen, I would feel incredible about it. So that crushes me. But I think there's a reason to believe Devin Williams could have a great year this year.
No, I get that, but my thing is just like they went out and got the 2 Yankees relievers that caused Brian Cashman to have to go out and trade for 3 more relievers at the deadline, and those are your 2 main anchor guys in the bed. And they made other couple other moves that they have solid depth of like no one particularly great, but there's no one like atrocious in the bullpen. So I guess that's
right.
An improvement there. But Diaz and there was some kerfuffle on after Williams signed and Diaz was still out there. Like they just like stopped talking to Diaz and they kind of just like allowed him to leave, which I thought was really weird for someone who like was such a key part of the Mets. Like I get Pete Alonso, like the writing was kind of on the wall there, but like Diaz leaving was the biggest shock of them all.
Totally agree. Does that answer your question, Alec?
Yeah, I just as someone who's enjoyed I had the privilege of enjoying the Luke Weaver, Devin Williams experience last year. I don't think that the additions of those equal like a third of what you're getting out of Edwin Diaz. So
I agree.
Yeah, it's just I would be very disappointed as a Mets fan, and it sounds like that would be the general sentiment at the moment.
What I feel good about now with Freddie Peralta here is if Peralta is Peralta and McLean is the real deal, that's a 1-2 punch that could be a consistency that the Mets haven't seen in the starting rotation for a long time of getting to the 7th inning, right? Like actually not putting so much wear and tear. Like for Senga's amazing numbers in the first half of last year, he was going out in the 5th inning every fucking time. 4th inning, he was like striking out 9 and playing great ball on the mound, and there goes Kodai Senga in the 5th inning with 1 out. Like that was consistently what was happening with not just Senga, but like the entire staff. Peterson consistently for most of the year was going 6 or 7 innings. If Peralta and McLean are the real deal, that helps the bullpen immensely. And I think last year the staff not going deep crushed the Mets pen, which led them to not even getting to Diaz as much as they should have. So yeah, I do agree. Williams and Weaver feels shitty. But I also do feel like there's a chance there's still a very, I don't want to say very decent, but like I feel like they could still be a valuable bullpen or
there's high floor. There's high floor there.
Yeah.
My next question. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, it's going to be a more meta question anyway. So like my next question is: you've now had how many years of Leon? Of what's his name? Steve Cohen being Steve Cohen being the owner of the Mets.
6.
Do you feel that he has delivered on what the expectations were? Not in terms of like actual pen to paper in the standings. Obviously, he's not won a World Series or anything like that. But when you continue to see what the Dodgers are doing, and Steve Cohen have the same amount of resources, if not more resources, than the Dodgers to do what he needs to do, and not coming close to it, what do you think the general sentiment should be towards the ownership of the Mets at this point?
I kind of want to let Drew answer that first because I feel like he's chomping at the bit with what the Dodgers have been doing too.
Two minds on this. One, he gave Juan Soto $700 million. So, like, on one hand, like, he's doing what he's supposed to do. On the other, they're trying to. What the Dodgers do well is that, again, they spend money. That's what they do. But they also develop players and guys that can step in and like Andy Paz in the World Series, showing off like the elite play in center field.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the type of guys they just have come in. Dalton Rushing is like he's like probably the best catcher that nobody's talking about, and he's stuck behind Will Smith, probably the top 3 catcher in all of baseball. So it's like they're developing crazy guys, and the Mets, seem to be developing pitchers. So they're right along there, but they on the position side, I don't think they've been able to keep up and plug in guys, the way that the Dodgers have. So they can spend, but I think what Steve Cohen envisioned was being able to churn out guys in the same rate and then be able to spend big when someone comes around. When someone like Kyle Tucker, you kind of got outbid for Kyle Tucker. I think that's kind of a trying to think of the right word.
It's a detriment.
It's a detriment to say, like, you weren't even like close to blowing away Kyle Tucker. Like,
it feels like they didn't want to be that close. Like, I don't know. Kyle Tucker didn't get this massive deal. Like, he was this hugely sought after guy, and yeah, his AAV is really nice. But like, what was it, 4-year deal, 5-year deal with opt-outs all over the place?
After 2 and 2 and 3.
Like, he was being talked about as a prospect who was going to get this insane deal, and like, it wasn't that insane. Like, I don't know, like, especially coming from the Dodgers, it was short term and like high value, but like, why was he not getting an 8-year deal? Like, I feel like other guys in his shoes would be getting 8-year deals.
If you're Steve Cohen, like, they're making moves on the margins, right? Like, and this is what I'm talking. Like, they're getting 1-year rentals, or they're hoping on a Devin Williams or Luke Weaver bounce back and everything like this. Theoretically, Steve Cohen was billed as what the Dodgers are doing at the moment, right? Like, if money is, he shouldn't be getting outbid on anyone, and
Right.
that was what. It seems like he's consistently being outbid, or he's not an attractive enough destination outside of the the more rare Juan Soto, who was clearly just going to whoever gave him the most money, and it was more clear cut type of person you go after.
So here's where I'd push back on that. Is there a reason that Steve Cohen should have just outbid for every prospect out there on the market? Because I kind of subscribe to this idea that they sucked last year, correct? But like, I kind of subscribe to this.
The majority of the time that he's been there. Like, they've been disappointing every year.
Believe it or not, for the Mets, they've made the playoffs more in his tenure with more consistency than any other tenure of the Mets' entire history. Okay, so they're on a track to make the playoffs. I think they made it 4 out of 6 times with him. That's incredible statistics for the New York Mets. So from that specific thing, they are competitive and competent and I said competitive already. They are that. He is delivering to me as the owner, because even though he is, made of a $1 billion, can he go out there and sign every single person? Sure, he could, but it's not $1 billion cajillion. It's not like he's going to run this up to a $500 million payroll. He's not going to do that. And I don't know if he has more resources than the Dodgers, because they seem to have every resource as well. So to me, and hold on one second, to me, they are still trying to build a sustainable winner, right? And the fact of the matter is, if you went out there every year in Steve Cohen's tenure so far and said, I want the guy who's the best in this market, some of those guys aren't that good. Not every one of them has been Juan Soto. If Kyle Tucker, who's going to be 29 years old, only got a 4 or 5 year deal with opt-outs after 1 and 2 years, like, his market wasn't that great. Maybe people don't think he's that great of a long-term answer because otherwise he should have gotten an 8-year deal.
Yeah.
Exactly. So to me, there's a fine balance between trying to outbid just because you can and trying to build a sustainable winner. And a lot of this stuff that they've done, moving off Nimmo for Simeon, saved them a lot of money. Getting off McNeil, that saves them some money. They're doing moves on the margins, yes, but they're not going to strike just to strike. They're trying to strike for Juan Soto. They're trying to strike for people that they think are going to be sustainable winners.
And I will say that, like, oh, sorry, just one point before you get into but like Cohen does, I will say to his benefit, he does use his cash in a way that allows them to take bigger swings. So the Luis Robert Jr. Trade, for instance. So like the talent is, he's still only like 20. How old is Robert? Like 26, something like that. And he was good.
It's wild.
2 years ago he had like an all-star, like top 5 center fielder in like the game kind of year. And like the Mets took on $20 million in salary on a salary dump on a lottery ticket. And that's how Steve Cohen like is using his money. Like, again, he's not spending on the top player, but he's taking that $20 million gamble that the Tampa Bay Rays or the Pittsburgh Pirates wouldn't do. He's able to do that on someone with high upside. And again, if Robert doesn't work out on 1 year, then he doesn't work out, then that's fine. It's just money spent. But like, he's using that money, in the ways that an owner with his resources, can and should.
And who, Alec, I'm sorry to cut you off one more time, but who are the big free agents that he should have outbid for? Like, who are they?
I mean, the fact that Edwin Diaz is not on the Mets team right now is a tragedy. It's a tragedy.
Point taken.
That's to let the Dodgers take if he went to the I don't know, he went to the Reds, like we wouldn't be talking about this. He went to the Dodgers, and you the optics of rummaging through the garbage bin of the Yankees garbage bin to get their relievers every year, their old pitchers and everything like that is not good. It's just objectively not good. And then you said something before. He's like, he's not going to have a $500 million payroll. Why? Who cares? That's literally what he said he was going to do. He was going to come in and outbid. And you said one other thing. You said every year maybe the best players on the market aren't the best players out there. I hear you on that one. I totally hear you on that. That's literally what the Dodgers are doing every season. They are getting the best free agents every year on the market, like what the Yankees used to do in the 90s. That's what the Dodgers are doing now. And maybe Freddie Freeman might not be as good as Bryce Harper. I don't know who was on the class at that time. I'm just saying. But like, Freddie Freeman's going to show up. He's going to put up, and he's worth the investment. And Drew, you said something like he's taking a $20 million gamble. Why take a $20 million gamble when you can get a $40 million sure thing when it doesn't matter because you have that kind of money? The reason I'm saying all of this is because I am a Yankee fan. And the way that Steve Cohen is operating right now is what the Yankees do. And it drives me absolutely up a wall. It's convincing yourself.
He's still outspending the Yankees in a lot of ways.
I know he is, but I'm just saying, when you can convince yourself that the right move is taking a $20 million gamble on Luis Robert as opposed to outbidding anyone on Edwin Diaz, but instead getting Devin Williams, who sucked by and large the majority of the year last year, that's bad. Like, that's objectively just bad optics all around. And I'm not saying this as a Mets hater. I'm saying this as a sympathetic person, actually, in this way, because I'm a Yankee fan, and it drives me crazy when they do. No, because you're going to hear me talk about this shit when we talk about the Yankees in 2 minutes. Like, it's the same bullshit that drives me up a wall with this team.
Yeah, I mean, for example, Cody Bellinger, right? I would have loved for Steve Cohen to go out there and blow Cody Bellinger away and bring him away from the Yankees. Another thing of rummaging through the Yankees, and maybe not the garbage bin. He's a pretty good player, but like Cody Bellinger was one of the best players out there this year. Cody Bellinger is not like an all-world player. That's what we are dealing with every year. And it's like, if the position doesn't fit in the moment, and clearly like first base is not something that David Stearns believes is something they should spend crazily on. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like he's been outside of the Diaz thing, which was a great point by you. I feel like he's doing all the things that he said he was going to do. I really feel that way. When you have a Lindor and you have Juan Soto, and now you do make that trade for the pitcher, and maybe they will, sign him for a deal. those are the things he was supposed to do. And I think he also learned from his early years of signing Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer, saying, I'm going to put money on this and fix this quickly. Those were moves that in the moment were like, oh, these guys are still here. They're going to do something for him. Steve Cohen just bought them to come here and win for the Mets. And like, they sucked. So like they learned the hard way a little bit too. I think that is why they want to try to build a sustainable winner.
But they
which is why
flipped
David
those
Stearns
people
is
for
here.
assets. They flipped Verlander and Scherzer for assets.
They did a good job. Yes, they did.
You can always do that when you have assets. They are not collecting assets. They're collecting lottery tickets. And that's like somebody who's saying, I'm not going to get a job. I'm going to go play the lottery every day and hope for the best. You know, there's one thing that's going to be consistent, one thing that's going to give you something that you can depend on and do that. And then maybe, you know, the Yankees took a gamble on Cody Bellinger and it worked out. It might not work out in 5 years because they had to resign him to a long term. Right. So like, you know, those are gambles. I'd rather bet on a Shohei Ohtani. I mean, it's a bad example, but I'm just saying like the Dodgers would. Sure, but then a Cody Bellinger or something like that. So
I'm actually relieved that the Yankees that Bellinger was able to give them an opt out like after 2 years. Like I'm like, and they did. Cashman actually did the smart thing there, and he front loaded the contract. So like Bellinger only has to be out like a 3-year, $72 million deal if he opts out, which I'm sure he will. So it's like you're going to get 2 prime years up front and then like not have the downside to it. So like I think that's what annoys me about to transition over to the Yankee talk just for a second. I think that's what annoys me the most about this offseason is that like when there's good players available for like all these contracts that were given out were high AV, like short-term deals, like there's no reason the Yankees shouldn't have been on Kyle Tucker. Like that pissed me off like beyond reason because Kyle Tucker's the better player. Like I get like defensive versatility, like it's for the fucking birds, man. It's for like something like the Pirates to worry about. Like, oh, Bellinger can play all the outfield positions at first base. Like, fuck you. Like, I don't care. Is he the better hitter than Kyle Tucker? No, he's not.
Yeah, you hit a threshold of hitting where it doesn't matter.
Yeah, like get like after losing Juan Soto, like. I don't know. I wrote a piece on the Subway Sports Talk Substack at the when the Cubs traded for Tucker. I was like, the Yankees need like this is the guy the Yankees need to go after. Like he's 29. He's like again he's somewhat injury prone, but like if signing Cody Bellinger to a 5-year deal when Kyle Tucker got 4 like is fucking insane to me and like is beyond. I'm just so frustrated with how it's not even like the lack of moves. It's just like the complacency that has set in with this franchise and Brian Cashman and Hal Steinbrenner just over the years. And it's come to a head now in this offseason where it's just like, okay, your plan was to run it back on a team, again, granted that won 94 games last year, but got pantsed in the ALDS against the Blue Jays, who got better. Yes, they lost Bo Bichette, but they signed that third baseman from Japan. They got Dylan Cease. They got bullpen help. Like, and they were already a great team to begin with. So it's like, and the Red Sox got considerably. Their rotation's probably the best in the American League. They lost Bregman, but they got Contreras over at first base, and they have all these young guys coming up that can be able to fill in at those positions. And the Orioles got Pete Alonso, and they got pitchers, and they got bullpen up. Like everyone in your division got significantly better, and the Yankees like, we'll just run it back. We'll sell some chicken buckets. We'll 94 wins team. Yeah, that's fine. But do you expect Trent Grisham to put up the same offensive numbers as he did last year? I don't. Yeah,
I think this is a great point, Drew, by you. I think what Drew is saying and what Alec was kind of saying are a little bit on the same page and a little bit different. Like you look up and down the spot rack for free agents in 26, 25, 24, 23. You go through them and it's like, oh, the guy who got the 3rd highest contract in 2024 is Jung Ho Lee. Like, is that who Steve Cohen needs to go get? Oh, this year, like, watch out, guys. Like, I'm sorry, last year, watch out. Like the 4th highest guy was again, Alex Bregman, Willie Adames, like Anthony Santander. These are the top 5 guys on the market last year. Like I'm sorry, I'm not going to be upset that Steve Cohen, or if I'm a Yankee fan, are not going crazy for some of these guys. Like at the end of the day, what Drew said earlier with the Dodgers hitting on these prospects and spending on some of these guys, like they bought Blake Snell last year. That was huge for them, but they're also hitting on these prospects. if Alvarez was what he was supposed to be, if Vientos or Beatty were as consistent as they were supposed to be, if Luis Angel Acuna actually developed as a hitter like he was supposed to, we'd be having a different conversation about this team, because you wouldn't have to go plug second base with Marcus Semien, because Acuna was supposed to be that guy. The Mets have had this top 5 prospect run for years, and guess what? It meant nothing. The Yankees have had top 5 prospect runs for years, and it meant nothing for the most part. So make those calculated risks, send some of those prospects out, go get Freddie Peralta, and spend on Juan Soto, spend on Aaron Judge, spend on Max Fried. Max Fried was incredible, but like not spending on Luis Severino last year, who got a massive deal relative to the rest of the league. Like, okay, we're going to live, in my opinion.
I don't know, but then they pivoted to Frankie Montas, and
Right.
look how that worked.
You're trading the same player for the same player. You're trading the former Yankee for the former Yankee every year. That's kind of my point, right? Like I don't. When Drew, you were talking about Cody Bellinger and Kyle Tucker, I get it. I'd rather go with the known commodity when it comes to that. Like, you know how he's going to perform in New York. We've seen a million people come to New York as big free agents who just not work out. Frankie Montas, a good example of that. It's a very equal frustration I have for both organizations at the moment. And you talked about how, the Dodgers are really good at developing prospects. Like you just said, Drew, I think it was Drew who said it. Yankees and the Mets constantly have people in the top 50 of like the rankings at the. They never work out. Maybe you get one every 6 or 7 years. That should never happen with an organization that has the money and the funding and the resourcing that the Yankees and the Mets currently have. Never. And if that is happening, you need to trade those players and not prospect hug, because it gets you nowhere, and go trade the entire farm system for a 1-year rental of Tariq Skubal, right? Like, you're going to go get someone else that's going to not work out in the next year in the draft or whatever it is, and do that. So all of these things you're saying are lending credence to the Yankees and the Mets being like a bastardization of what they proclaim themselves to be.
Like, everyone remembers Pete Crow Armstrong getting traded in the Javi Baez trade. Javi Baez wasn't that bad for the Mets, if you remember correctly, but it obviously worked out horribly because they failed as an organization, as a team. Pete Crow Armstrong goes off last year for the first half of the year. He's incredible. And it's like, oh my God, the Mets traded away the prospect. Like, that's why you can't trade away guys like that. It's like, no, Pete Crow Armstrong is the outlier.
Look at Jared Kelenic. You traded Jared Kelenic for Travis Diaz, for Edwin Diaz.
He sucks.
Nothing.
Yeah, he's terrible. He's been on 5 teams since the Mets traded him, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes with the prospects you have, like, you feel like, oh, we know these guys. I've seen clips of Spencer Jones hit moonshots in AAA for the past 2 years, or AA, AAA the last 2 years. He's our guy. We got to get him up. He's got to be for us. Guess who'd be pretty cool? Kyle Tucker, right? Like, so I'm anti-hugging the prospects. I've been kind of giving crap to the Yankees fans about that for years now. And the Mets have to kind of be in the same boat here. If you think you have a guy, let's see him, right? Because all these dudes who are real MFers in this league, okay? Like, when they get here, they show the hell up. And right now, like Vientos and Beatty, for example, are on that fringe. They've showed the hell up, and they've showed the hell not up in their 2 or 3 year career so far. Like, now it's time to put up or shut up. And if not, like, get the hell out of there, move on, right? Yankees have a similar thing going with Anthony Volpe right now. Like, if it doesn't happen in the next year or two, it's never going to happen for Anthony Volpe in New York, right? Like, you have to figure it out.
Yeah, I'm so done with Anthony Volpe. I really hope
he's young enough, Drew. He's young enough to still get right.
It's just like, I don't know. The Yankees play such favorites, and that's what kills me too. Is that, like, if they want to talk about, like, oh, Spencer Jones could be the next left-handed Judge, but like when Judge went down last year and Jones was like he hit like 9 home runs in like a 7-day span or something like that. They left him down there. And it's just like, okay, you're telling me exactly what you actually think of Spencer Jones, and just like, you're gonna hold on to him. They don't have no value. They're gonna Clint Frazier him. They Clint Fraziered Anthony Volpe. They're gonna do that with Lombard Jr. Like, and now, like, their next hype prospect, Dax Kilby. Like, they haven't developed. They've developed two above average, consistent above average hitters in the last 25 years. Brett Gardner and Aaron Judge. Everybody else that's come up is like, okay, Gleyber Torres, inconsistent. Gary Sanchez, inconsistent. Tyler Austin had to go to Japan for 7 years, and then now he's back. Now he's back with the Cubs. Like they can't develop hitters, and like until someone actually does, something changes. Like I have no confidence in this group. So again, like you want to hug Spencer Jones, or you want to you know when there was all those free agent shortstops, and they're like Corey Seager and Trey Turner and like Carlos Correa, there was like a million guys out there that was like, okay, like, no, we got to hold our spot for Anthony Volpe. Like, you're playing such favorites with him, and like he's giving you the worst shortstop production in like the last 3 years out of everyone. Out of all qualified hitters, he's last in like every major statistical category, and like the Yankees love him for some reason. It kills me, the complacency and with this team and this franchise, and it's just like what. And this offseason has been the culmination of it all. It's just like,
so wait, this begs the question. Perfect timing. This begs the question, and Alec, I'll go to you first. Yankees now, obviously, they've made their share of moves. It hasn't been as active as the Mets offseason, but they're still doing some things. They bring back Cody Bellinger. They did trade for Ryan McMahon last year, so he's now going to be a mainstay with this roster now. Obviously, you got the Garrett Cole coming back of it all, which could be a huge thing. They made a bunch of trades in the pen last year that are going to continue, like Bednar, etc. Schlittler is a full year on now. Are the Yankees better this year than they were last year? Is now the question for you, Al.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can't add Garrett Cole back to this rotation and say that they're going to be worse. I don't think that
For sure.
he's the type of pitcher that comes back and is okay, right? Like from an injury like that. I know he's older, but he's so mechanically sound that I think that you may not get what he used to be, but you're still going to get top of the rotation type of guy out of him, in my opinion. Their rotation's really good. Last year was supposed to be the best one in baseball, and then Cole got hurt pretty immediately, but like, you have top to bottom. They probably have 7 starters off the top of my head, and like with 2 people probably waiting in the wings. I forget their names, but I was looking at them earlier. That's great
for Weathers too. So
Weathers, yeah.
Yes. So that's great. I mean, that's what's going to win you championships. I mean, I think coaching is always the challenge with the Yankees. On paper, they have enough talent there, and you still have arguably the best hitter in baseball on the team, probably wasting another year. So the Yankees, I think, are marginally better. I don't know that translates to a different win total. I think that their ceiling and their floor are, anywhere from that 89 to 94 wins a year or something like that with this current roster. But I think the Yankees are playing for the lockout. I think that's what you saw out of the Yankees offseason this year. They're very worried about the lockout next year. I think it's going to be a really bloody one. And I don't think the Yankees want to get anywhere near that with some bad deals and get caught with a weird CBA type situation like the NBA did, where you got to offload people. And that's why you're seeing, even the only move they made was Bellinger, and that had a bunch of opt-outs and had contingencies for the lockout. And I think that that's what they're really playing for, is just to get through that inevitable strike that's happening.
Yeah,
Cowards play.
No, yeah, but yeah, their rotation depth is so much better than than it's been. Again, Rodon's gonna come back in the first month or two. You expect Cole to be back by end of May, beginning of June. You still have Clark Schmidt, who had internal brace surgery, so he's probably not back to the second half. But then you still have Heel, Warren, Freed, Weathers. Like those are all very good starting pitchers, and they kind of copied the Dodgers blueprint when it comes to just like, let's just amass talent in the rotation, and then if the bullpen's short in the playoffs, we can put those guys. I think the percentage of innings that was pitched in the World Series last year or in the playoffs, I think Dodgers starters, or from quote unquote even guys coming out of the pen, I think it was like 80% of their innings got thrown in the postseason for them. So like, I can see the Yankees doing a similar blueprint along that way. It's just a matter of what's going to happen with the offense, and does Cody Bellinger come back? Does he turn into Jacoby Ellsbury and just immediately fall off a cliff?
He's still built
Because
for Yankee Stadium, though. Like, and
yeah,
he's such
not
a
great,
short
so
point merchant.
yeah.
Dude, the real
Is
question is
what
Trent
do you-
Grisham. Let's be for
Yeah.
real, because are we going to see a Yankees lineup again this year that is running out Trent Grisham leading off?
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's just not what
there's-
should be.
And
It's just not what should be.
They're still bad against lefties. Like, okay,
Yeah,
you
very
you
bad.
brought
Thankfully,
back,
Bellinger's a very good left-handed hitter.
yeah, he's
off
great,
lefties.
and you have Rosario that's gonna kind of plug in. But like, do you have confidence in Ahmed Rosario? Like trying to do that?
I was so
And what do
mad
you-
that he
and what
started
do you
that
do
first
with-
playoff
and-
game.
And I guess my biggest question is, what do you do with Jason Dominguez now? Do you trade?
Talk about someone who's they've completely ruined his entire asset class.
His value and his actual on-field performance because he doesn't play enough. I don't get it.
Exactly.
Awful.
And that's the crazy thing too, is again, the point I said earlier is like the Yankees show you who they believe in, and like Jason Dominguez, like they think of him as a platoon bat now, like because he's not going to play against lefties. Like you had 2 years now to give him a chance to get the batters in and get experience versus lefties, and they're just like shielding him from it. So that clearly they believe that even though he's a switch hitter, he can't hit against lefties, and he's a platoon bat. So congratulations.
That's a classic case of overconfidence in themselves, right?
Yeah,
like,
it's
and
ridiculous.
Spencer Jones falls into this category as well. Sometimes you got to put someone in the big show to see what happens, right? Like this happens a lot of times across all sorts of sports, right? You'll see a running back who's second string, third string, and someone goes down. It's like, holy shit, like this guy's really good. Like, wait a minute, why was this guy not getting any touches? And now he's getting, 18 touches a game and he's winning us fantasy leagues because he's a really good player. Like baseballs are not that dissimilar because you need to see what happens when someone gets to the big show. Like Spencer Jones, unless you're worried about your minor league options and saving a buck, or when you have to pay a guy, which I always hated as a fan, right? When you don't bring someone up because you're trying to save a few bucks, like Spencer Jones not having at bats in the major leagues yet is insane. It's insane. He should be up there at some point getting some
But
at bats.
that's the problem when you're
same thing.
when you're
like the Yankees believe they know. They think that they know everything already. Why even put Dominguez out there? We know he sucks against lefties. Like,
but that's
don't
not
give him a
even it.
chance.
That's not even it. The Yankees can't afford to have someone struggle for a prolonged period of time, unless you're Anthony Volpe for some reason. Like that
Yeah,
that dude is.
exactly. Like,
But in all seriousness, the Yankees are always going to have to be in contention. They can't do what the Mets do, and every couple of years if they have to, and just unload everyone and say, hey, screw it, we're gonna have a bad season. We'll flip these for assets. Yankees can't do that. So to have someone like Spencer Jones stink it up for a prolonged period of time will hurt their bottom line, hurt their
But
expectations.
they've had guys stink it up who are playing anyway.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like that's why you need to flip these fucking prospects. Like there's no reason to have these on this roster whatsoever.
Right. Like if you guys can trade Spencer Jones today for a commodity who's not like every year all-star, but is a good player, you doing it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, like I was really hoping that they were going to trade Dominguez to Washington to go get like Mackenzie Gore, something like that. Like that would have been perfect. That would have been absolutely perfect.
Under
like,
Matt Blake, whew.
Yeah, you have Dominguez here, who's again he's still only like 23 years old, and he still has that shine and potential on him, and just like you're gonna just hold him on the bench, and he's gonna have terrible stats, and you're killing his trade value. Like I don't understand the reluctance to cut bait here on him and just get a true fourth outfielder for this group that can you can bat against lefties. Like go get Austin Hayes or somebody like that. Like you can't like Dominguez can't sit in AAA. Like that he's proved that he's too good for it. And like where does he go from here? Like the roster construction, something else has to give now that they signed Bellinger, unless you're going to sit him on the bench and then put Bellinger in center field next year and then finally try out Dominguez again. But again, he needs at bats against lefties, so it's just like you're shooting yourself in the foot next year. It's nothing here is making any sense.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think the Yankees are like Alex said, I'm gonna agree with that. Marginally better because the rotation is just that good. I mean, Fried was just incredible last year. Rodon seemed to really get through whatever he was going through before last year, and the depth is insane. I think the offense is going to be consistently annoying. When Judge doesn't hit, they're going to be very, very pedestrian, and when he does hit, they're going to win a lot of games, and they're going to win, like Alex said, somewhere between 90 and 100. It's like a lock, guarantee it, right? 90 to 100, really great, 98, not so great, 90. Like that's just who they are currently still with this offense. I think the offense will continue to be the problem in this math here for them.
And they'll go through a month where they just do not win a game.
Yeah, they always have. They always do, and they always will. They always do, and they always will. Any last words here, boys, for Subway Sports Talk? This is a great one. Talking some Mets, talking some Yankees. I'm excited, man. I feel like there's some good juice with New York baseball right now. And I'm excited, again, about the Mets that they are different because, again, they sucked for half the year last year. And people need to remember that. People need to remember that when they get upset about Nimmo and McNeil. No one's upset about McNeil. And Alonso and Diaz were all upset about. They weren't good last year. So different for the Mets equals good in my book.
I saw something on the foul, and I'll end this with a question. I saw this posted on the Fan earlier, maybe a couple weeks ago. Who wins more games in October this year, the New York Giants or the New York Mets?
The Mets. I'm going to say
Giants.
Mets.
Giants.
No. I mean, the Giants only have 4 games in October.
Yeah, Giants is without a doubt. But you're assuming that the Mets win any games in October.
Yeah, I do. I think they're going to make the playoffs this year. I do. I think so. They're a big every other year team recently. In Steve Cohen's era, they're every other year. They've been pretty good. I'm sticking with it. But the Giants, hopefully they win 2 games in October. That'd be cool. I guess the Mets do have to still win a series. Yeah, damn. You're right. Maybe it is the Giants.
Well, I think there's usually like now with how the schedules work out, they usually play like 2 games in October before the playoffs start now, right? Isn't that how it's been working?
Sometimes. It depends how the weeks lay out, right? I guess it's possible.
I mean, for the WBC, they might actually, the season might start a little bit earlier because of the WBC, but
that's going to be awesome. That's going to be so much fun.
It's going to be so much fun.
This is the first time I'm actually like, oh, that's must-see television. I gotta set my watch to it.
All right, that's all we got. Subway Sports Talk. Thank you all for listening. Alec, Drew, Pete Kennedy, signing off. Another great one right here on Subway Sports Talk. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review on your podcast app and on YouTube. Hit us up on socials at Subway Sports Talk on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, etc. We're out here. We're posting. We're talking. Talking sports is what we do. All right. Talk to you soon. Cheers.